Welcome, welcome, welcome to today's live music mastery myth busting session with me, Dan Spencer. The company is Best Music Coach. We exist to get you from where you are now to where you want to be. That's your dream music goal. That's the whole reason why we're here. Now, today we're going to be talking about how to take your demo and turn it into a full song. We're going to talk about 5 things. Number 1, the cheapest way to get your song to become, well, to take your demo all the way into a song. Number 2, the biggest mistake people make with demos. Number 3, how to use real live musicians, get the best performance out of them, and where to find them. Number 4, how to share your demo with anyone you're working with. And number 5, the final steps that'll take you all the way from demo to song. Now, let's get a couple things clear. I'm going to assume at this point you have a demo, which means you've also written a full song. So you've written a full song and you've recorded that full song as a demo or a demonstration track where you have at least you singing in time along with the music, possibly even some instruments, maybe some guitar, maybe some drums, some things like that. So we're going to assume for all the advice and everything I'm going to talk about today, you have a completed demo that is, well, shall we say, musically viable, meaning that you're singing in time or relatively in time. The playing is in time. It's all been recorded with a click or a set BPM, beats per minute, set speed, and that is where we're going to be launching from. So number 1, we're actually going to talk about the number 1 mistake people make with demos first and foremost, and that is called demoitis. And if you or someone you love happens to be suffering from demoitis, please give us a call at bestmusiccoach.com. So what demoitis is not actually a disease, but demoitis is what happens when you fall in love with your little baby demo. And you've sat there and you've crafted this song for days, weeks, months, years, maybe decades, and you finally recorded it. And then you've heard this recording, you've sat there, maybe in your car, maybe in a dark room with a towel over your head, just obsessing over it, listening to it over and over again, and it's burned into your brain, the exact sound of that demo. Now, demoitis is what happens when that becomes your new normal, and anything that deviates or changes from that sound of that demo is going to sound wrong to you. That's demoitis. Now, the thing with demoitis is because you're so used to how everything sounds, if you get any change to that, you're going to think it sounds bad just because it sounds different. Now, here's the thing. If you want to get a better song than the demo, you're going to need something different. You're going to need something new because otherwise the demo would be the final product. Do we agree? Yes. Okay. So you must overcome your demoitis if you happen to be suffering from demoitis. If you're not suffering from demoitis, good for you. But if you are, here's some steps to overcome or to combat your demoitis. So number 1, take time away from your demo. Number 2, go listen to music that is not your demo. Go listen to some of your favorite music. Take a break. Step back. Number 3, do non-music things like raising a pet turtle or cutting a pineapple, which you could then feed to your pet turtle, or go for a walk, or eat a protein bar. All these different things you could do out in the world that have nothing to do with music. Go do some of those, then come back to the music because you need some space between you and the demo so you're not used to hearing it and that's not your level of where you think everything should be because a demo is just a demo. It's only a demo. It's only a demo. It's just supposed to give you the idea of where the song could go. It should not be the end product, and you don't want to fall in love with the idea of where the song could go. You want to fall in love and be open to the idea of the end product. Now, what you can do after you've hopefully overcome your demoitis is the cheapest way of getting your demo to be a full song. Now, this is going to be by yourself using plugins in your DAW. So I just used a bunch of words. We're going to break those down. A DAW is a digital audio workstation. That's going to be programs like Fruity Loop Studio, Logic Pro, Pro Tools, Ableton, Cubase. All these are digital audio workstations. Now, most of these come preloaded with a bunch of instruments, plugins that you can then go and actually create things that sound as if someone is really playing the instrument without any need to go record anyone or need to play yourself. This is the cheapest way to turn a demo into a full song. And yes, you can get a professional sounding quality song just using the plugins that are available to you. For example, I'm a Logic Pro user, so just using the base plugins that come with Logic Pro, you can, C-A-N, can make a professional sounding song. Maybe a little difficult, maybe take you a little time, but you can do it, and that's going to be your sort of zero cost option. Now, you're also going to have to, if you want to get more sounds, go buy them from a company like, let's say, Native Instruments. I have their plugins, and I'm not paid to tell you to go buy their plugins, but their plugins are excellent. Also, Isotope's a great company I always recommend. And again, not paid to recommend them to you. It's what I use, and so there you go. So here's the second step of what you can do to keep things low cost is actually record everything yourself. Now, I only recommend this option if you are competent. Competent means like pretty good at doing several different instruments. So let's say if you're a competent guitar player, bass player, drummer, and singer, you, in theory, could go create the entire song yourself, as many artists that history have done. Think about Prince on Purple Rain. I think he played the majority of all the instruments. Stevie Wonder, on the first couple records he made, played the majority of the instruments. And so if you have the time, you have the talent, you have the instruments, go ahead, record them yourself. That's great. That way you don't have to have anyone else's, idea or anyone else's time. You don't need to spend money on anyone else. You just go create it yourself. And it's a-okay to do that. And you can, as evidenced by Prince and Stevie Wonder, both two tremendous musicians. It is possible and can be done. There's other people besides those two examples, but those are the two who I have off the top of my head in this moment. So now let's talk about what happens if you want to have other musicians play on your recording. For the purposes of this conversation, I'm going to assume we're going to go for session musicians who are experienced, seasoned musicians who are very good at their instrument, and they are specialists in their instrument. So what you want to do before you send the demo out to these people is you want to make sure your demo is as good as it possibly can be. So what I recommend doing is get your demo to as good as you think you can get it, and then don't listen to it for like a week. Go do something else. Again, like we talked about, go raise a pet turtle, go cut up a pineapple to feed to your pet turtle, go rock climbing, or eat a protein bar if I got those in the right order, right? Go do something that's not music related, or go work on another song. Leave it for a couple days. Take some time away from it, because what you need to do is you need to make sure you really, really, really like every single part about the song before you send it out, and here's why. Once you send your demo out to other people to play, a couple of things become locked or unchangeable. Number one, you're not going to be able to change the speed of your song, or the BPM, the beats per minute of your song. Number two, you're most likely not going to be able to change the key of your song. Number three, you're not going to be able to change the form of your song, which means the order of the verses, the choruses, the pre-choruses, everything like that. That's going to, for the most part, be locked in. Now, with some careful editing, you could change the form around. And again, some algorithms are getting better at it now, can actually change the speed of things that are played and also the keys of things. But by and large, the algorithms that are out there do not do already recorded content justice in terms of speeding it up transparently. It always creates what are called artifacts, or little odd glitches within the music where you can hear that it's been sped up, and actually takes away from the quality of the listening experience much of the time. If that's an effect you're going for, you want to use it artistically, go do it. Have fun. So for that reason, you want to make sure your demo is really as good as you can possibly get it before you send it out to other people. Now, once you are ready to send your demo out, I recommend getting co-approval of a musician friend or a music teacher who teaches songwriting or production and has experience in songwriting and production, so they know and they can confirm with you that the demo is solid. And I say this because a lot of you out there who do not have a lot of experience in music, you don't know if it's tight or if it's not. You don't know if it's rhythmically correct or it's not. And that's just because you're untrained. Once you get training, you'll understand it. Once you get experience, you will understand it. But if you're at the point where you can't tell when someone's singing out of tune or they're singing in tune, and you can't tell the difference between someone playing in time or out of time, that means you can't tell if you're singing in tune, if you're singing out of tune, and that means you can't tell if you're playing in time or you're playing out of time. So make sure you have your demo double checked, especially if this is like early days for you in your music journey. If you're very confident in your music skills, you've been doing it for a while, you can probably skip this step. But if not, I highly recommend just getting a double check before you send it out, because that's going to save you so much back and forth with any musician you send it out to, trying to fix the demo to get it to a place where they can actually play along with it. Now, when you send your demo out for people to play on, you should start with the rhythm section first. Now, what the rhythm section is, it's a group of instruments, and those group of instruments are the drum kit, the bass, piano, and that includes organs, anything like that, any keyboard instrument, and then guitars. That's your basic rhythm section. You're always going to start and go in that order: drums, bass, and then piano, guitar, whichever one you prefer. I always, as a primary guitar player, my main thing is singing, guitar playing, and music theory. I always want the piano player to go first because piano players take up more range than the guitar. And I always want to, at least in a jazz context, always give the piano player first choice of what they're going to do, and then I'll play around and add little things. So always send out rhythm section first. Then when you get the track back from the rhythm section and any other instruments you're going to do after that, then you can go ahead and re-record your vocals in the final track, and then your song should be done and ready to move on to the next stage. Now, before we go to those next stages, let's talk about where to actually find good musicians to play on your track to really bring it to the next level. Now, there's a couple places you can try, and there's one place that I recommend, and I'm not paid to recommend this to you. It's my honest recommendation. So you can go to places like Fiverr.com to find musicians to play on your tracks. You can go to places like Upwork.com for people to play on tracks. But the place that I recommend going to is a site called soundbetter.com. Again, I'm not being paid to tell this to you. It's my honest recommendation. Soundbetter.com, just like you're going to sound better, and then just put it .com. Now, I've actually worked with quite a few people on SoundBetter, and I've worked on projects with people who were from SoundBetter on those projects, and it is a real deal. You get real professional musicians who can play on the track, real professional mixologists, well, mix engineers and mastering engineers, but we'll get to that as the last steps. So whenever you're working with a musician, especially if they're top class on SoundBetter, there's a really couple cool things you can do. Number one, you can actually go and see who they've worked with. And the people on SoundBetter either are the people who you've been listening to your whole life or have worked with the people you've been listening to your whole life. I mean, the real heavy hitters, like the real industry insiders that you normally would not have access to, a lot of them are on SoundBetter. It's really an incredible resource for you to get people who are at the top of their game to spice your demo up and take it to be a full-fledged song. It's honestly, it's insane that something like this exists to me, because when I was coming up, this did not exist. And wow, I wish I had this when I was first starting out, to be able to go, I mean, even just like talking to these people, you learn so much. So when you're working with a musician on SoundBetter, make sure you get clear on how many revisions they're going to give you, or how many revisions you can ask for of what they record. Now, if you don't know what you're looking for, let's say you've never played bass guitar in your life and you're not really sure what the bass guitar should do on a song, you need to tell that to the bass guitarist you're hiring. Say to them out the gate, say, look, I'm not sure what I'm looking for, so please roll with me if I have to ask you a couple times to try a couple different things, I don't know what I'm looking for. So one of the things that annoys musicians the most in the whole world is where you show up, you do a really good job, you record the part exactly how you know it should be, and then the person who's hired you to do the recording is like, yeah, well, maybe we could try it this way, or maybe we could try it this way, and maybe we could try it this way. And you understand that person doesn't actually know what they want, and they're just fishing to try and figure out what they want. If you're honest up front and say, hey, look, I don't know what I want, but I'm willing to hear what you're going to give me, that's going to get you the best result. And then just understand how many times you can ask them to go back and change. And that would be revisions. Everyone's going to be much happier if you establish how many revisions you're going to ask for or be able to ask for up front. And then also, if you don't know what you're looking for, tell them you don't know what you are looking for. Now, when you're asking someone and you do know a little bit of what you're looking for, do not write paragraphs describing what you want. Don't write, essays of like, and then I want the bridge to feel like a warm summer's day with ice cream dripping down the front of your hand and the stickiness between. It's like, okay, yeah, maybe a little bit of that, but what's really going to be useful for people if you give them reference tracks. So give them songs you like that you want to sound, that you want your song to sound like. So let's say there's a bass part in a song that you like, and it from 30 seconds to 1 minute within the song, it's like, oh gosh, if only I could have that bass part on my song. And what you do is, for this example, I'm only talking about bass guitars. You do this for any instrument at all. You say, hey, look, I want you to play exactly like 30 seconds to 1 minute on this song. You send it to them, they listen to it, and that way they're actually going to be able to get you a lot closer to what you want. And you can tell them to emulate it. You can tell them to basically copy it as close as you can without copyright infringement. And that's an okay thing to do. It's okay to say, hey, look, I want to get it as close to this sound here as possible without actually infringing on the intellectual property of the person who wrote it. That is okay. That is morally okay to do. Copyright laws are there to protect the actual intellectual property, and it's okay to get close to it. It's all right to do that. And if you look at the history of music, so much of what turns into genre over time is because people emulate or very closely copy what other people are doing. Now, sometimes when you're giving direction to session musicians, less direction is better, especially for seasoned and experienced musicians. They know what to do. They know how to make your song sound good. And all they need to know is like the speed, the BPM, the key, and the genre you're going for, and they're going to get you a great result. Like really, like first time through, they'll get it for you. And that's because they know the function of their instrument within your song and within the genre. And going back to the demoitis, if you've now divorced yourself from that demo and you're willing to hear new things, you might get a musician that brings you this level of joy and clarity or this new idea that you never would have come up with otherwise. You never would have thought of it. But because you're not married to your demo exactly being how it was, you're open to that new idea, and that new idea can contribute and build your song and turn it into something way better than it ever would have been otherwise. Now let's talk through a couple technical details of how to actually share files when you have someone who's going to be working on your song. So number one, my first choice, which is the easiest, is just copy paste the entire recording session from your DAW. So let's say you have a file, you're working in Logic Pro or in Pro Tools, whatever it may be, that file that has all the recordings in it, all the data in it, you just copy, paste it, put it in a Dropbox, put it in a Google folder, and send it off to the session musician. They can then take that and record directly into your session and send it back to you. And there's no need for file transfers on your end. They will also export the files and send them to you as well separately. Now, if not, if you're going to have to export all the files of your demo to send them over to someone else for them to record, there's a couple things you should do. Number one, you're going to send them an export of the entire demo from the beginning all the way through the end, so the musicians could hear the speed, the general genre, the idea that you're going for. Number two, you should export the files individually. Now, most people call these stems. Individual files are not actually stems. So I'm going to give you a quick little tangent here to break down the difference between stems and multitrack, and then we'll be back to it. So what a stem is actually a group. It's a one single sound file of a group of other sound files. So for example, if you're playing the drum and you have the kick drum, and you have the snare, and you have the hi-hat, right? All those three different sounds together, if you put them on one sound file, that would be a stem. But each sound file separated, the and the all separate from each other, those are going to be what are called multitracks. Now, realistically speaking, no one says multitracks. Everyone calls all those stems. So when someone says, send me the stems, what they really mean is send me the multitracks. Send you all the individual files from your demo separately. Now, when you're bouncing these out, make sure you export from 0. So even if you have like a cymbal crash or a little chorus vocal that happens all the way at the end of the song, don't just export it at the end of the song. Export from 0. What you want is you want someone to be able to just take all your audio files, open them up on their side, and it's the entire song perfectly laid out exactly how you had it on your end. Now, the last part of the entire process of bringing your demo into a full-fledged song is you need to have it mixed and you need to have it mastered. The mixing is going to be a mixing engineer. Again, I recommend SoundBetter. You're going to get mixing engineers who've worked on top 40 hits all the way through classic rock hits, through whatever genre of music you're in. The people at the top of that genre, most likely you have mixing engineers on SoundBetter who have mixed for those top artists. It's really incredible site. So go check out mixing engineers. Now, you need a mixing engineer. A lot of people think you get done with the demo, you get done with the recording of everything on top to really take it to the next level. And, oh, I'm done. It's like, no, you are not. You need to have your song mixed. The difference between a mixed song And a mastered song and an unmixed and unmastered song is like, let's say I was someone who baked wedding cakes, and you said, all right, Dan, I'm gonna hire you to bake me a wedding cake. And I show up on the day of your wedding, and I've got some raw dough, and I've got some flour, and I've got some icing, and it's all the parts to make the wedding cake, but it's not actually put together, and it doesn't actually look like a wedding cake. That's an unmixed song, okay? It's all the pieces are scattered around, they're not really put together. And what mixing is, it's taking all those pieces together and actually making it look like a cake. It actually looks like a cake. It's all tiered up. There's icing over the whole thing. There's decorations. That's what mixing is. And without mixing, you're just going to be looking at pieces of cake. Not to be confused with pirates who are always after those pieces of 8. Now, when you actually look at mastering, what mastering is going to do is it's going to take that cake and put the shine on it, the final gloss, the sheen, to get the lighting just right so it really stands out from the background, the presentation of it. Within the mastering, they're going to take everything that the mix engineer did. And what the mix engineer is going to do, they're going to balance everything. They can get the volume just right between all the different instruments. They're going to actually put the whole thing together. It's going to feel like a song. And then the mastering engineer is going to come and make sure that the song is loud enough to be heard across all systems and that it's balanced in a way that's going to sound good across all systems. So that's going to include sounding good in your headphones, in your car speakers, on your phone speakers, on your computer speakers, on your TV speakers. A mastering engineer is going to split the difference between all those and make sure your song translates and sounds good across all those different media. And if you don't do that, you're going to be looking at a song that sounds really good to you on your headphones in your room, but is not going to sound good to Johnny down the block listening on his phone. And the way people consume music now, it really needs to sound good on everything. So you really do want to make sure that after mixing, you go through the mastering process. So that really is all the steps to take you from a fully finished demo through a complete song. We didn't talk about releasing a song, but this is how you turn a demo into a full song. Anyone out there have any questions about anything we have talked about today? While I'm waiting for questions, I will just say it has been my honor to bring this information to you today. I am so grateful for this opportunity to be able to share my experience with you. I have so much experience working across so many different projects, doing every single thing I listed to you. I've tried to make projects myself within a digital audio workstation using all the VSTs and audio units. I've also worked with session musicians, and so I've got a ton of experience across all these different ways of bringing a song from demo all the way through to finished song. So it doesn't look like we have any questions just yet, but Dan Wright on Facebook says, fantastic info. Dan Wright, I'm so glad to hear that you are finding this information useful. If anyone else has any questions, thoughts, or there we go. All right. Facebook user says, thank you for hosting this, Dan Spencer. You are most welcome. Thanks for joining. Hope you got a ton of value out of this, out of my experience and all. Listen, like this list of how to go through all these things came through so much trial and error and so much blood, sweat, and tears on my end that it really is so fulfilling for me to be able to share this with you. So hopefully you can skip some of the blood, sweat, and tears that I have had to pay throughout my life to know how all these things work. Okay. Dan Wright asks, how should we go about finding the co-approval person for our track? Well, that's going to be either a music teacher. You could go on to, honestly, you could even, look, there's a couple ways of doing this, right? You either have a friend, like, for example, my girlfriend, she's not a trained musician, but she listens to so much pop music that I know if I play a pop demo for her and she starts doing this, like, I know it's good, right? Because she's so used and hooked into that world that that's a good barometer instantly of knowing if it's good. So be strategic about who you go to, right? Because if you have a jazz recording, an avant jazz recording, don't go to your friend who's a pop music aficionado. If you're trying to create a death metal record, don't go to someone who's into, folk music, right? You need to find someone who specializes or has a degree of experience, either generally in songwriting and production, or who's actually written songs or knows a lot about the genre you're in, and then go ahead and have them give a listen to it and give feedback. And what I would say too is that when you're getting feedback, let's say you ask 5 people for feedback. If all 5 people tell you there's nothing wrong with it and they love it, you're good to go. If all 5 people give you feedback and every single one of those 5 people give you different feedback, you're also good to go. If you go to all 5 people and all 5 people give you the same feedback about the same part of the same song, that's when you know you really might have a thing where you should go and fix it. But keep in mind that songs are art, and no one's ever right or wrong in art. Art is completely subjective. Now, you could also pay a music teacher for a music lesson and play them your song. If you know someone who teaches songwriting, bestmusiccoach.com, or you know someone who teaches production, go to them and actually hire them for an hour, hire them for half an hour, whatever they are, and go play the song for them and ask them their opinion. The whole thing about teachers is they have their time for hire. So go pay them for the time, have them teach you about how your song is. Same thing with session musicians as well. And I would say too, everyone, if you're watching this, you should check out, there's a free Facebook group in the description. If you're wondering where these Facebook questions are coming from, I've got this fantastic, phenomenal Facebook group where we do lessons, Q&As, things like that every week. You go check that out. That's in the description of the video, no matter what platform you are on right now. So yeah, finding co-approval, it could be someone you play with, it could be a teacher, it could be someone you know. Just be strategic about how you go about asking for that feedback, and then make sure you have, if someone's really saying something needs to be changed about the song and they're not a hyper expert in that particular field or particular genre, then you need to go ask multiple people and see if you get a consensus of people all aligning around the same part of the song that needs to be changed or needs work. And when you ask them, don't give them any idea of the part of the song. You need it to be a blind experience, a blind taste test, if you will, which is, I think, a little bit of a confused metaphor, but I think you get the idea. Dan says, cool, let me know your rate for feedback lessons. Dan we'll get that taken care of in the Facebook group. That sounds like a plan. Happy to help you out with that. Deadly Marsha says, hey, from Twitch. Hey, Deadly Marsha, thanks for joining. Have Facebook user says, caught it late, we'll watch from the beginning when I get off work. Sounds like a plan. If anyone else has any questions about how to go taking that demo, that first idea, and bring it all the way through to completion to the final song, go ahead and pop a question in the chat on whatever platform you are on, and I will see it here in this magical little hub I have that I'm in right now, and I'll answer your question. We'll give it another couple 30 seconds just to see if anyone else has any questions, and if not, we'll rock and roll. So while we're here, just want to let you know, again, my name is Dan Spencer, the company's best music coach. It has been my honor and my pleasure, and literally I am so grateful to be able to bring you this information today to save you the time, sweat, tears, energy, mistakes, and money that I spent getting and learning all these lessons along the way. Please hit like, subscribe, crush that notification bell if you're on YouTube. And if you are on anywhere that's not Facebook, come hang out in my free Facebook group. The link is in the video description on every single platform. Click that, come hang out. And it looks like we don't have any more questions for today. So this is where we will stop it. Thank you all so much for hanging out. Thank you so much for watching. I am so grateful again for this opportunity to bring this information to you. So stoked to save you all so much time and energy in the long run and to get this info out there. Thank you all so very much for watching. My name is Dan Spencer, bestmusiccoach.com. Check out that link in the video description. Come hang out in my free Facebook group, and I will